Hello, welcome to this live conversation show with Linda Ashok. And today we have Shamayita Sen with us, who will moderate this session. So I welcome Linda and Shamoita both. Hi, Linda. Hello, Shamoita. I think I'm audible.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, you are audible.
Okay. Linda, let me congratulate you first on the release of your book of poems, Waiting for the Helicopter.
Thank
So,
you.
this is the book, and it's a cute little thing. I don't know whether you would object to my saying or referring this collection of poems as thing. But then,
Okay.
uh, people often refer women as cheese, right?
They do.
Linda, yeah. So my first question to you would be, how would you react, or how uh, did you react when someone, maybe your office colleague or anybody you know, referred you to as cheese?
Actually, it never happened in my experience. So
Okay,
nobody
but
called me.
okay.
But I do
Then
find it problematic when women are addressed as baby and, you know, sweetheart and stuff like
hmm
that. Uh,
okay,
Sweetheart, to a certain extent, is still fine. But addressing someone as baby, I mean, it's very patriarchal. So I do not agree with that term.
and what about honey?
See, honey does not, address, it's not gendered. It's not like
Mhm.
male or female. Either party can call each other honey or sweetheart. But
Yes,
to call it baby, like you are really using something which is like referring, okay, you are stupid, it's a subtle way of passing on that message. So I do have problem with that.
okay. And Shamohita, what's your take on baby or honey or sweetie or cheese?
So I do already have a ready response for baby. Um, it is a way to infantilize women in general.
Yes.
So the moment you
Mhm.
infantilize someone, you are preventing that person from making an opinion. And um, okay, sweetheart, honey, I think I don't like either of them. But a baby is really problematic.
Okay.
Why are you
So,
asking this though?
like, yeah, yeah.
Seriously, sir.
Why I asked, why I began this show with with this typical question. The thing is, whatever Linda has produced so far, be it Waiting for the Helicopter or The Whole Light, I have both the collections in hand today. So I believe Linda has a strong feminist voice, other than a subtle poetic voice. Linda, your take.
um I do not know what to say now. I do agree, but I think my poet persona is over and above any other kind of philosophies I observe in life. So my feminism or my humanism, I think it's the poetic persona which supersedes anything.
Okay. And Shamohita, you have read both the books.
Yeah.
Did you find a strong woman talking?
More than just the feminist aspect of it, I think she has a very strong voice, uh, and it is beyond the rubrics of feminism. I do have a few questions, so I am hoping she would answer them. And it's a privilege to be a part of this entire thing. And even before you had actually asked me to um, get into this, I had a few questions after reading um, the book. Uh,
Okay,
so
sure.
You're not audible, Kiriti sir.
You're not audible.
Yeah, I hope you have enjoyed both the collections, Waiting for the
Yeah, yeah,
Helicopter and Whole
yeah,
Light.
yeah.
Uh, like before you start asking Linda questions, I would ask you, Shamoita, would you or do you consider Waiting for the Helicopter as a sequel to Whole Light?
Um, I think waiting for the helicopter. This is a personal opinion. I
Yeah.
think waiting for the helicopter is more nuanced, and her writing has evolved. Of course, it must have. So, not just. I mean, it is probably a follow up in a way. All writing becomes a follow up to our previous writing, but
Hmm.
there is a more mature voice writing. I mean, that I can hear while reading Waiting for the Helicopter. If
Okay. The thing is,
what
Whole
do you
Light,
think about this, Linda?
Whole Light happened in 2017, and I'm sure the poems in Whole Light must have been written, like years before. Uh,
Yes.
and this Waiting for the Helicopter, it happened only a month back, and the poems are fresh. And I'm sure Linda, as poet, has evolved quite a lot from
Hmm.
from her Whole Light days. Can you
Yeah,
imagine, Samoita, when Linda released Whole Light, Facebook didn't allow her to make a page on Whole Light because the title has the
because
word
the
whole.
title.
Yeah, but now
Also,
that
it did not allow me to advertise the book, to promote the book, use their advertising service because
Hmm.
it was, canceling it every time because, it had the word whore. So this time
Mhm.
I thought, like, I'll keep everything inside.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, Now I would request and ask Shomoita to carry on the conversation. And before like shooting Linda your questions, I'll let you share your remarks on the book as a reader
So,
because you are primarily a reader.
yeah, reader or a critic, whichever way she would
Yeah,
want to see
yeah.
me.
A
Yeah,
critic is essentially a reader.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So please carry on.
So, yeah, there are a few observations while I mean, when I had read the book, and they will be a part of questions that I would be asking you. But
Sure.
two, three things that really struck me is I had a word with Kiriti sir about the book, and the title "Waiting for the Helicopter," and there's a poem also in the collection with the same title. So I had heard about the story behind that title, and that that sort of shook me up. Um, and I connect that with a few of your poems, um, which do not really use the human language. So that is also something that had struck me. Um, the shift from the human language to computer language. Um, I would be asking questions. So if you do not mind, should I already start asking questions? I'm just so excited.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, okay. So while reading the poems, I feel this is true to both the collection. I feel you are writing about the pangs of human existence. So how would you want to elaborate on that? And would you like to read a few poems maybe from the new collection?
Sure. Thank you very
Uh,
much. So, I do agree with you. There are many elements of pants, and it's an everyday journey. And all these poems have come together, in this book. So this waiting is not just waiting for that moment. This waiting is, it's this infinite line, and this waiting is not the waiting that gets over in a few hours, right? So as I said, it's an infinite uh, waiting. So if you know about Samuel Beckett's Waiting for the Godot,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the waiting continues. So there was no female, voice carrying forward or giving their perspective of what waiting is after, taking on from Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot. So here, that was somewhere a subliminal, explanation. You can say that my mind was trying to justify, is this the reason why I have titled it Waiting for the helicopter? Because there is one thing like, having a subliminal meaning. The other part is it has a real meaning. And it is something that my friend, who's affected by schizophrenia, she was waiting for the helicopter at a very odd place. So, so the subliminal plus the real, you know, it's an assimilation of both these points. And when they're assimilating, I am not doing it in a laboratory. In a lab, and because I'm not doing it in a lab, the air is full of dust, and it is like, it is not a very pure assimilation. So there are other experiences that get into that mix. So that is waiting for the helicopter in this.
Okay, so would you like to read a few poems um, which you think suits best when we discuss about the pangs of human existence? Um, I feel the poems are not just about sadness or grief or recollection or looking back. It's about, living each day, and as you just mentioned, it is about capturing each of these moments and putting them into poetry. So if you
Right.
would like to read a few
Also,
pieces.
the thing is, there was this point when Kiriti mentioned that the poems were completed just a month before the book was published, but actually it's like good 10, 12 poems that were the last, what do you call it, like the last set that went into the inclusion. But uh, the solid chunk, it started germinating since, I finished Whole Light. So it's
Oh,
been a long phase since then. But then, I was also very disconnected from poetry for a good 7 to 8 months. And toward the end of the book, a good set of poems happened after that breakup with, temporary breakup with poetry. And coming back brings, you know, brought me that kind of freshness in my approach, because I could then see things more clearly. There were things, uh, they say that you can see through shit. So, I could see through every element, every metaphor, I could touch and feel, there was something very surreal about the entire experience of how I concluded the book. So, Kiriti also did point out when he was, reviewing the manuscript, judging if it is suitable to call it a final manuscript. That was the time he did exclaim that toward the end, it really ends heavily. I was
yeah,
like,
it does.
yeah, so maybe, coming back, sometimes a breakup is important. So I think that way it did help me conclude the book.
Okay. Kiriti sir, would you want to pitch in or say anything, or should I move on?
Because
No,
I
I
see him
don't. I don't really
smiling.
want to interrupt.
Sorry.
I see you
Uh-huh.
smiling. You're about to interject. So you can.
No, no, no. I was actually
Uh
enjoying
huh.
your talk. I was enjoying your talk. Linda, uh, I have a
Mm-hmm.
poem ready. It is at page number
Uh huh.
42. The poem is titled Not Enough
Mm-hmm.
Toys. The poem opens with There is a dead man inside my pillow.
Yes.
And with this line, I would like to ask you, Can a dead man be inside your pillow?
Yes, a dead man can be inside my pillow.
So, my question would be, please elaborate on the mental aspect of this particular poem.
So basically, most of these poems, not only in this book, my poetic journey or my writing, a lot of it is sourced, from the dreams that I have. So I have a weird relationship with how I dream. So there is one kind of dreaming which is called lucid dreaming, wherein you are in charge of your dreaming. Like, you actually know that you are dreaming and you kind of enjoy it. That's stuff that people in general enjoy. But when I am when I am dreaming, it is so, you know I cannot distinguish if I'm dreaming or if I'm awake. And I'm actually a part of it. And experience, if it is a nightmare, is very, very harrowing. And if it is something very, gentle, then, it'll stay. And my dreaming is, I do not know what to call or to talk about it, because if I am dreaming something and I really want to take a break and it is exhausting to my sleep, I will take a break, I'll go around, I'll come back, and I'll start dreaming from where I left off. Right. And it is not something new. I have this condition right from my childhood. So I did not know what to do about this. And there is no medical, like, I did talk to my doctor. So there is no medical solution to this. So just this time, my doctor has, given me a medicine. He thinks that it can help me. So I'm about to try that. But my relationship with dreams is very, very bizarre. And everything that I write, most of it, I can say 80% of it, is what I dream. I am talking about it. So yeah, I mean, my metaphors, my similes, or whatever you call it, my sentence structure, how I move my sentences between, timelines. Sometimes you will see that it's in past, sometimes it is in present, sometimes it just moves to the future. So, this kind of fluidity is not something I am, I do take care of it in an editorial process, but that is just 40% of it. But 60% is what I'm actually dreaming. I just document that. I don't have to think about a metaphor. So it just comes that way. It just comes naturally to me. So if I'm saying that there is a dead
This is
man
very
inside my
interesting. In
pillow,
fact,
So there was a point in your life when when you deliberately asked your doctor to give you something that can help you stop dreaming.
yes, because there is one thing that, so it is a very complex thing. I asked my doctor that I want to sleep. I want to sleep good, because sleeping is very important. I do, my work is very strenuous. It involves a lot of thinking. As a marketer, I have to be like ahead of things, and if I am like very tired in my head, I'm not able to focus, right? So sleeping is very important. But at the same time, I also told my doctor that I cannot also, miss the source from where I write my poetry, because over the years it has become my identity. So how do I, ask for sleep and also compromise with my identity? So I am always in this kind of, you know, a rigmarole, like in this crisis. So first time, in the last year, like when I went and met my doctor, he first took care of my sleeping. He tried to do that, my sleeping pattern. And this time, he has figured out something out of his studies, and he's prescribed me a medicine. And so I'm about to try it. But I'm very afraid also, because uh, I do not know, like, I want to sleep, but I don't want to lose
Lose
lose.
poetry.
Yeah.
Or lose the source of poetry, of your poetry.
Yes, yes, yes.
Perfect.
Because if
So can
I
you
have to really, like, I mean, many poets, um, they do a lot of study. Like, I study poetry just not to improve my grammar of poetry. I study poetry to know what is out there, what people are talking about. But there are poets who are serious in terms of the grammar, or in terms of their stylistic, or anything else, right? They go into detail, and they put a lot of labor into thinking, like, what metaphor should I be using, which is going to be like this or that. So I don't think about, none of the metaphors in this book. How I speak, I never think about it, because it's never a labor for me to write a poem. If I am in a mode, I may just end up writing 5 to 6 poems a day, and then there'll be 6 to 7 months not a single poem.
yeah,
So you
Linda,
know
can you
about it, because I have
yeah,
been.
yeah. So like can you read this poem, Not Enough Toys?
Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
So, just a background. This is, I always feel that my grandfather is still alive, and this dead man is basically, uh, it, my grandfather. So, is grandfather like a grandfather, or grandfather like a lover, or grandfather like an uncle? I do not know. Like, but you know that he stayed there in my life, and he continues to stay in my life. It's that dead man who's inside my pillow, basically.
So as your
My
as your company.
Yeah, kind of. So my mother used to tell me as a child that, because I was a very disobedient kid, so and I would never study, so she would tell me, keep the books under your head, and all the knowledge will get into your brain. Because I'd always keep the books below my head, and she would tease me about it. So, that what she teased me about, and the existence of my grandfather, in the sublime world, they just mixed, and, it becomes a line that is there in this poem that it begins with.
Yeah, please.
So it's called Not Enough Toys. There is a dead man inside my pillow. It is a very small pillow. And the dead man is a 5, 6 feet idea that looks like a real person. This pillow has a garden and a shed. It has a tool on which the dead man sits, watching the sheep smoke my brain, keeping me awake so he is not lost from my sight. Most days he is pleasant, plays a violin that I remember from my childhood. The violin didn't work for me, so I shelved it in my memory. But since memory was absorbing too much of its music, the violin ended up in his hands. It likes to be played with, unlike me. My lovers always complained that I can never make a good toy. So most days I'm alone now, not being a toy, and yet be a toy, broken in one corner of the house. The dead man, when he sees me much disturbed, he takes my head inside the pillow and shows me how the world looks like from his eyes, frozen, like all inside a cobalt blue marble that keeps rolling on fresh frost.
This is wow. This is wow, Linda. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much
much.
for gifting the world this marvelous poem. Shamoita, it's
Thank
now your turn.
Yeah, since you mentioned about dreams already, I had a question regarding that as well. So, I keep exploring the dream space in my poetry when I'm trying to make sense of the human subconscious or the human mind. And I just wanted to ask you, other than the dream image, do you have any specific symbols that you use as motive, as a repetitive motive in your work? Anything that recurs in your poetry?
So,
or would you want to explore something like such touch symbols more? Is there anything in your mind regarding that?
So the thing is, if I have to put an effort, then it is a prose. It's not poetry. Okay, that is how I feel about it.
Okay.
And I try not to interfere in the process of my being translating into poetry, right? So the editorial process also that I indulge in or that I include uh, to bring to edit my stuff, even that process I just keep it to bare minimum and I do not interfere too much, right? And in this process, what I'm trying to say is I do not in anything, in any manner, I do not force in anything. So if you say that if I am trying to implement a particular motive, no, like I do not do that. However, I am aware that there are motives which are pretty recurrent because I have been told by many readers, and people who read my poetry critically, they did say that I have a lot of reference to trees, and I do talk about, a lot of birds and so memories and, grief, these are, you can say that kind of uh, there because it's very carnal, right? It's part of my body. But about trees and birds, because then there is this ecofeminism aspect of it, and that is where I also feel that being a woman, it is not only limiting myself to my body, but also realizing my body, my existence through the environment. Because if I have to believe that myself as a creator, then I have to create that space, the green space that is conducive to sustain our future. So that is something I am actively, from my cause point of view, it has sunken in, like it has penetrated my system. So yes, you can say that that is something that may stay in my poetry.
That's a very nice thing. Um, so, moving on to the next question, how do you think your poetic philosophy has changed over time, over the span of these two books? Are there any major changes, or like Kiriti sir asked, is it just consequential to the first one, first collection of poetry?
Uh, Basically, in Horlight, my attempt was to break that notion about what is being a whore. As I discussed, and it's also very explicitly mentioned in my book, in Horlight, that uh, light, basically we allow it to seep in our lives, in our darkness, but we don't identify light as a whore. So if we do not identify light as whore, despite light, allowing light to sleep with us, to be in our darkness, then why do we have this social taboo about whores or prostitution, or how even it has become to be known as a slang? Like, how are we using it as a derogatory statement? So my first book, I think, was much strong on feminism, my feminist voice. Um, but my second book, maybe, definitely there are certain things that stay. So the base stays, but my prime focus is on mental health, because that point in time when I, wrote a whole light, or over the time that I came to evolve my writings and consolidate them in form of the manuscript, I was going through the dreamscape even that time, but I was not serious about it because somehow I was managing my sleep. But the sleep thing became, very disturbing as I grew in my career. simultaneously with a lot more responsibilities at my professional end, where my focus was much more required, to deliver the best to my businesses. So that point in time, I felt that it was urgent for me to see a doctor and discuss this matter. And simultaneously, the major trigger behind this book, I wasn't very ready, although my publisher Bitan has been very kind, to ask me for it, but I wasn't very much ready for the book. But the trigger was this incident with my friend, when she was lost at a railway station, and she had that kind of a vision that she's going to be picked up by a helicopter. So I was like, okay, so what have we been waiting for all this time? And it also, like, because I really loved Beckett, and because Waiting for the Godot was a part of the syllabus and became a part of my system, my academic system. So somewhere all of these came together. It's like they gel so well, and then the book happened. So this is where I discuss a lot of psychosis, how I think about things and how they move beneath my skin. So yeah, it's much more on mental health than my outward strong cause-based voice.
So this brings me,
Yeah,
sorry.
Linda. Yeah,
Yeah, this
carry
brings
on,
me to
Shamayita.
one of the major things that um, I think it was the first poem that I had read from this collection. It is on page
Mm-hmm.
number 71. And the
71.
experimentation, yeah,
Yeah,
it's either the last or the second last poem. Which one do you consider as the last one?
it's the last, yeah,
Yeah.
last one.
Okay. So,
71.
yeah, 71. That was the first poem that I read from this collection. And I was flabbergasted with the kind of experiment you did with language over here. So, do you think taking up the computer language is it a way to break away from the confinement of human language? Do you see it like that, or um, how do you see it? And I would also want you to read this so that I know how to read this poem. Maybe I really liked
So
it, but I had to read it twice, thrice to make sense of it. It's very interesting.
so
Yeah,
I'll tell you something. I'm exploring coding
yeah,
very recently. Okay, so what you see is coding language,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
right? So this is the kind of language you use to instruct a computer the action it has to take, right? So when I started, I'm still at a very, very, infant level in the coding scene. When I started, there were things, and I was studying and I was like, wow, so this is like this, so I was drawing parallels, like if this is happening this way. So for example, if you see uh, the greater sign and the greater than and the lesser than sign, right?
yeah.
Which acts like uh, inverted what do you call it,
Comma.
brackets, right?
But
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so what happens in computer language, when you use these, right, it indicates that um, so that will not come out in the outcome. What you put inside is something that helps the sentence that comes, you know beyond, I know, how do I put it, I
input,
think,
input,
I would.
output.
So basically the action of the instruction of the statement that you put inside this, right,
It's
is
called
not seen
command.
when the
Command.
final output comes out.
Yeah,
It's
Okay.
input. It's the input command. Is it like that?
Yes,
Giving
yeah.
yes,
Input
it's
instruction.
input
command.
command. So this
Yeah,
command tells that, so if you put a command inside this sign, okay, it will then suggest what action you have to take with the content that comes after that.
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah,
so this command is not seen in the final output. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what it means is how
His
in
voice
our
into the
lives
ear.
people who are are responsible for our success, for our joy, for our pain or anything, they are not seen. What is seen is the final output, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is about, you see, it is the one night stand. It's like dog type ONS, right? So what one night stand can cause is what one has to feel as an output of the poem. What you see here is not the poem. Poem is what you eventually will, realize out of the content. So basically, this is what is unseen. You although see it as a text on the page, but it is unseen. What you will see is what when you experience in your head. That's the output.
Yeah. Yeah. So Shamohita, I guess Linda is trying to convey that the poem is basically like as Linda says, is the unseen portion
Yeah.
which cannot be seen, which one cannot see in real life. So
Mm.
this poem is practically uh, the neural message that goes inside the brain to produce the
To
feeling
evoke a poem
that
out.
one experiences after and one night stand, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
Right.
also another poem like this, which uses the coding language on page number 7. First
This is
poem.
this is the
First
opening
poem and
poem.
the
Yeah.
last. Yeah. So
Yeah.
would you want to read either of them out for your viewers?
So this poems are not to be read, because it's an instruction. So it
Mm.
has to be perceived. It has to be felt by the reader. So it is not a readable poem, and it is not a readable poem because computer language is low. The programming language that we use, it's low programming language. As
Mm.
Okay.
language comes closer to human, oration or how we speak, it's
Mm.
high language. Okay.
Yeah.
But computer language is low language because it's a programming language, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
low language is not meant for human beings. So
Hmm.
therefore it cannot be read.
Red.
So it can
Right.
only be perceived
Right.
as a
Yeah.
neural instruction like Kiriti and highlighted.
Yeah. Yeah. Linda, what do you think
Yeah.
about slang languages, slang words?
I do not know. I think
Can you
it's all.
identify certain words to be slang?
See, I do not have any problem with slang. Generally in India, we understand any derogatory word is a slang word. But
Yeah.
slang is just, it's an informal word, right? And it's
Yeah. Anything
very
that you use in,
colloquial.
right.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. Anything that you use in an informal space is a slang. Hey,
Correct.
hi,
Yes.
bro. That is also slang.
Yes,
Is
yes.
it is it is
So,
it the definition, Shamoita?
Yeah, it is the definition of slang language. It has nothing to
Okay.
do with taboo words, ideally.
Okay. So like
But we perceive
today's
it in a
world of
very
Netflix, yeah, today's world of Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney Hotstar, we are used to listening fuck, shit, and so many other words. Your poems too have these words in them.
Punk buddies.
Yeah, fuck
yeah, that's
buddies,
also a
fuck.
poem, yeah.
Yeah. Linda, do you think
Mhm.
mental health issues have anything to do with the use of slang in poetry?
See, one thing I would like to say is that mental health is not a piece of paper with very definitive edge, right?
Hmm.
It is an essence, like how
Hmm.
you understand things, how you
Hmm.
evaluate or you perceive things. It's
Hmm.
it's a it's a limitless, it's a fluid space. Okay.
Hmm.
So there, whether you use slang or cuss words or anything, I do not feel that this question is appropriate enough, to for me to even explain or bring it within the perimeter of mental health. So basically,
Yeah.
I can use slang languages, I can use cuss words, but it is not something that concerns mental health. So when I'm
Yeah.
talking
That.
about, this book does have poems, on mental health. So it is, what is that mental health? Where are we discussing this? Mental health concerns is, you take a step back, you take a step down, and you try and understand why are these conditions, right? And in those conditions, you might resort to your medication or you might not, right? But when you ask that if what is the budget of mental health, I do not think it's an appropriate question enough.
Okay.
So
No, this is the reason I asked you first. Like, can you identify any word to be slang?
uh,
So
like I said, like,
whatever you explained, I think you don't recognize certain words as slang per se.
no, I think the word would be cuss word. So I do
Hmm.
use cuss word, which is fuck. But now
Okay.
fuck has, over a period of time, it has become a slang. It has
Y-
graduated from being a cuss word to a slang, an informal word, and it means
mhm.
nothing.
Yeah.
So, you can give the whole world a fuck and it would not mean penetration, right? A sexual intercourse. So,
Okay.
it has just lost its essence of what it actually, was
So
as a primitive word in its primitive
is it
stage.
yeah, is it the same for shit,
Yes, absolutely.
Shamoita?
Yeah.
Your take?
Yeah, I feel the same way about it. I do use it as everybody else, our generation. But even if I do use it in Facebook posts, maybe not in my classroom space. So there is
Yeah.
that kind of a bifurcation. If I'm teaching my classroom, I wouldn't use it. But
Why?
because it's still a formal space, and yeah, maybe because certain other kinds of people are not comfortable with it. That's also there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not about me being comfortable using it. Maybe in the workstation space or the staff room space, I might use it, but maybe not in the classroom space. So, if at
Right.
all I am to bifurcate about being informal or formal, classroom space
Hmm.
is a formal space. So,
Okay.
slangs can't be used in a formal space. That's why.
Or in other words, a teacher is not supposed to use slang in classrooms.
So again, teacher in the university, teacher versus teacher in a school versus teacher in a
Yeah.
college are very
Yeah.
different people. So
Yeah.
teacher in the university will probably smoke up with the students, but teacher
Hmm.
in school, maybe they are supposed to be examples that people are supposed to grow up and become, you know. So
So basically, I'll just
Yeah,
add to
acquainted
this.
with.
When you are at the university, when you are in the university, then you are an adult. You are already 16 and above, and you are
Hmm.
able to make an informed decision, and you can let yourself to be influenced or not be influenced with certain things, right?
Hmm.
But as a
Hmm.
absolutely.
child, when you are in the school, then you do not have that guard, and you're not sure if you should allow it or not allow it. So that kind of influence we have to hold back, right? Because the
Also,
person might, or it becomes a matter of consent, right? Because they are not in the stage to give you a consent that you can use this word. And if you use something without consent, that is equal to rape, right? Like what we are talking about. So it's pretty much okay when you are an adult, when you're in the university or in college. People are able to make, because they are adults, then they know I can shut off from this, and this is something I should give myself to.
Okay. Shomita, I think you are ready with another question.
yeah, that is also my last question. So you can
Yeah.
continue, then maybe that's
No, no, like I would rather let you
okay.
ask Linda your last question.
Okay. So, Linda, the moment we publish our work, we start living in the public zone. So,
Hmm.
how do you think a woman in the public eye? I mean, being a woman in the public eye, how has this affected you personally, or yeah, how has it affected you, or how has it changed you as a human being?
Linda, this is a sixer.
I'll try my level best to answer to this. And I really appreciate her asking me this question because I too somewhere
It's
wanted
not
to
just
address
about
this.
you, me, or other poets. It's about any woman who is
Right.
out there in the public, and it is something that we constantly fight through, and it takes a larger space of the brain as well, just to fight out our daily existence in the public eye. So, how do you
Right.
think that has affected you or your writing? I mean, this is
So
post
it
publication
is
of the
not
book.
basically
You're out there.
being affected because as I told you, even my conscious decisions they have very little effect on my poetry. My editorial processes has
Yeah.
very little effect on my poetry, right? It is very, very internal. So I wouldn't say that anything like that,
But
affects.
everything somehow seeps into our subconscious, and if the subconscious is what you are mostly tapping at while writing
Yeah,
your
I
poetry,
tap
then
my,
yeah,
yeah, that's my sap. I tap that,
yeah.
and I use that. When I talk about affect, yes, you can say that my friend having a certain condition and waiting for the helicopter is an external experience that helps me, get into my poetry, become the entire, what do you call it, the center focus, right, of my manuscript. If I am constantly saying that, it's my inner thing. So it it may be an external thing, but because I am personally a mental health, candidate that way, so I am able to connect with the situation my friend was in. It's empathy. I did not have to work very hard to understand, what she was going through. So it naturally seeped in, and it then brought out, my experience, and their things synergized for an expression. So that way it happened naturally. And you're talking about, how as women, we also as an artist, we are, we are, what do you call it, we are straddling two worlds basically. And then about the perception the world has about us, it's very interesting. It's very funny. And I'll tell you a little about it. So when I was a child, I would, sketch, maybe make a human face. My people around, not my mom and dad, right, because my dad is an artist and he knows, the people around, like, who are you drawing? And it's like, I do not know whose face it is, but I'm just drawing a human, right? So it was very important for the people around, for me to identify, what I'm drawing, what human face. Like, it must be someone's face. So I had to give, the
A
face I'm
definite
drawing
shape.
a name. I'm sorry.
Yeah. A definite shape.
No, 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 not about shape. About giving it a name. Like, it has to be
An
somebody from
identity.
my
Yeah.
environment. Like,
Okay.
who am
Okay.
I drawing? Right? It cannot be an imaginary stuff. So, the situation was like, people identify. You draw something, and then you have to say, okay, this is this person I have drawn.
Mhm.
This is this person I have drawn. It's simple. That's how they register a creation. Okay, that's a normal process. And I think that over the years, this human trait hasn't changed much. Okay, even now when I am writing poetry, certain experiences, then
Wisdom,
people
yeah.
have to ask me, like, who are you talking about? So if it is fuck buddy, so, like, do you enjoy fuck buddies? Like, how many men have you slept with? And how do you enjoy sex? These are the important things. Then I have to help them register, okay, this is how it works, and these are the men I slept with. you know that is how people want to register any act of creation, right? So, as a woman, because we live in India, a very taboo ridden society till date, in many parts of the country, where women are still subjected to rape and various violences. So I would say that it is. it is risky, but you know, over time, you grow a thick skin and you come to know that human beings can be smart as well as stupid, right? So you got to make a way with it. So as a poet and as a woman poet, when I'm talking about explicit subjects, which are also like, socially explicit subjects, then, I have to tell myself the consequence can be very stupid, and you just make peace with it. um, I'm lucky, but so far I haven't had any kind of negative experience, because the kind of readers that consume my work, they are the millennials, and it's a very progressive time. People are very much open to things now. Uh, at least if I give them an explanation, they're ready to digest it. That was
Yeah.
not the scene when I was a kid. I couldn't make my neighbors digest the fact that it was just a human face I have drawn. I do not know if it has to have a name. It is not my uncle or any person from my surrounding. So I think people have, even people who are non-poets, they are ready to create that space for you, to give them an explanation if they so need, and they're ready to digest it. So I think it is much more accommodating now that way. But yeah, we still have to, as women poets, be careful about our communication, because I know someone who was stalking me for a very long time in the past, like I would say 17 or 18 years ago, is waiting for the helicopter. That person has resurfaced and thinks that I'm still unmarried and I'm still available because I'm talking about funk buddies and I'm talking about one night stand. So that person is assuming that I'm available for consideration. So you can imagine how men can be essentially. So,
I was
it
just
is fun.
about to
You
say
enjoy
that
this attention to a certain extent, but then you also have to call it stupid.
I was just about to say after this conversation that this gives a lot of hope. But the way you end this answer, it doesn't really.
Well,
Okay,
yes,
Linda.
because they say that boys will be boys, so men will be men. You have to give them the space. Men have evolved a lot, like any other species. They have become much more accommodating. They are creating rooms for, and there are men who are talking about feminism actively. They do engage in feminist discourse, and they identify as feminists. So there is this progressive, lot of people, men out there. But at the same time, we do have people who do not even have room for themselves. So how can they offer room to others? So, you have to excuse yourself from such situations.
Linda, thank you
Just
so
about,
much for being with us.
sorry, I
Shamayita,
would
Oh,
like,
thank
I'm
you
more
once
than
again.
happy.
Like,
Thank
like
I
you
would
so
just
almost,
say
much.
it's
something.
almost 54 minutes, and I
Hmm.
think, yeah, we can sit for another session to talk more and more about mental health issues, and of course, your book. But I'm sure Shamohita has one last request for you, Linda, to read
Hmm.
one of the poems that she likes most.
Okay,
Shamohita.
sure.
I have. I would rather ask you to read one or two of your favorite poems. I do have page marks, but then I want you to choose your favorite work and probably read that instead.
We can go for
Okay.
one poem.
Yeah.
One poem, right? All right.
Yeah.
So I'll read Fog Buddies. Okay.
Page number?
That's the last one, I think.
Yeah,
The second
17.
last one,
Yeah.
17. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this particularly goes for Alvin Pang, because he was super excited after I wrote this poem, and then it gave me so much of confidence, like this must go into the book. So here it goes. Pug buddies, let's know that we can be trees for all you know, never wince or weep at a wound. To be privy to the person you are, I consent. I won't ever chase or complain. The rain is an army of ants inaudible from inside the glass hall. We are a simulation. I may feel love. Maybe my whole body will know it, but I will ease you in. I will be quiet and not even moan. I will not let a silhouette of emotion sneak in. I'm a poet. I know how dead wood works for a word to decay at the blush of a mold. You will remain a foreign tongue, unclaimed. Only once, this time, let's gather as much.
Such a beautiful poem, Linda. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
This,
Thank
this
you.
is the first
Thanks
Uh,
to
time I,
you and thanks to
yeah,
Shamoita. Thank you
this is
so
the first
much.
time I see
so,
you, I talk to
dear
you, and it has been
dear
lovely.
people, we were talking about "Waiting for the Helicopter" by Linda Ashok, published by Hawakal Publishers. It is out only a month back. The book is available both at the publisher's website, which is www.hawakal.com, and it is also available at Amazon India. If you are watching this show from abroad, let me tell you, this book is available across all portals of Amazon, be it in India or abroad. Thank you for watching this show. Bless our author with your good wishes. And Linda,
Do get the
let
copy.
Linda, let me wish you good luck again. And
Thank you. Thank you.
keep writing. Don't stop writing. The world is waiting for you.
Oh, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye.